Welcome back to the Georgia Show. We're brought to you by the Georgia Record, georgiarecord.com. And we are entering the age of disclosure. And there's going to be a lot of reveals coming in the next few weeks. Don't you sense that, Bill?
I sure do. Everybody seems to be talking about it. People are saying, just don't be surprised what you see. Be prepared to see, people that you thought were good that may not be fully good. See some people that you thought were bad actors that might be playing a role. So you got to be ready for almost anything, I think, right now.
And we're going to continue just bringing truth as we see it. We don't care where it lands. We really don't. We are attacked by both sides. In fact, we've been attacked here recently over some issues, and we're just going to continue pushing. I want you to sign up for our social media, please. Our YouTube is CDM. Just search for that on YouTube. Even if you don't watch us there, we load the show afterwards usually, unless we talk about vaccines or something that YouTube doesn't like. But please just go there right now, subscribe if you can, help build our numbers past a certain point so our algorithm will get jacked up. Also, we're on X, GA_record. Please follow us there. Extremely, extremely important as we grow that channel. It's an important channel. We're still throttled a little bit there, but we need to grow it anyway. And we're going to continue to try to get the truth out over multiple X channels, but that's one of the main ones. So thank you. And check the Georgia Record every day. We're putting out a lot of new content, a lot of investigative content, a lot of just short content that you may need to know about, like what's going on in Savannah, continued crime there. Bill, did you want to say something there? Sorry.
Just the fact that, it is important. And all of these, if you look at, you mentioned X, X is particularly useful for folks that we are hearing from in Georgia, because it's proactive. It will alert you when we go live. We are going live with certain things that are very timely over and above the shows. And so make sure you're following us, make sure that you pay attention. And if there's something urgent, we're going to try to go there and elsewhere to get it out to you.
Definitely. This show is on Gettr. It's on multiple X channels. It's on multiple Rumble channels, and it gets loaded to YouTube. So you can find us, and it's on podcast. If you miss it, it's on podcast. You can subscribe. Please do that as well, and you'll get a notification when it goes up. The recent show goes up. We have a new sponsor, and we're going to ramp it up big into the new year, but I'm just going to play a couple things. It's Avelo Airlines. This is a startup. It's very scrappy, customer-friendly, comfortable, quick, efficient airline, I have found. Of course, you're not in massive seats with lots of room, but you are in a comfortable airplane, and the crowd is not what you see at some of the other discounters where they're fighting in the aisles and all that. It's a very, I found, professional crowd who just want quick, efficient service up and down the East Coast, a West Coast a little bit. So please check out Avelo Airlines at aveloair.com. I'm going to run a quick B-roll on their new acquisition of more aircraft to grow. So we're going to run this, and then we'll be right back.
A warm welcome here at the National Press Club. Welcome to the journalists, welcome to the Embraer team, and welcome to the other guests that we have here. I'm going to announce, and as some of you guessed it right when they came in, the first E2 order by an American operator. And that operator is Avelo. We believe this is really a strategic shift to unlock profitability for the customer. I'm very pleased that we have Andrew Levy here as the CEO of Avelo, and I'm very pleased to give the stage to share a little bit more about what Avelo is going to do with the E2 195. Thank you very much.
Couldn't be more excited to be here as part of this historic announcement. We have such a great cultural fit as companies, so we're very, very excited to be Embraer's newest customer. We launched our airline in April of 21, and our target is focusing on small secondary airports of large metro areas. We've carried over 8 million customers since we started on 63,000 flights. And we've done all these things with 1,200 of the greatest crew members I could ever imagine having, and many of them are here with me today. This is the right airplane for us. It's going to open up opportunities for us that no other aircraft can serve. The best thing about the airplane, of course, is you will not find a middle seat on this airplane. It doesn't exist. We won't have any to offer. It's going to be the best cabin in the United States, and we're so excited about that. This is going to elevate our experience to the highest level, and we think our customers are absolutely going to love the airplane.
So that being said, Avelo, he mentioned scrappy companies. That's why they contacted us. We're a scrappy media company. They're a scrappy airline. Embraer is a scrappy manufacturer of great aircraft. And it's a really good cultural fit with us too. And they said, you know what? You're the only one giving us good coverage in Connecticut where we're being attacked for contracting with the government deporting illegal aliens. And so we really appreciate that vote of confidence and that reach out, and we're going to do our best to help them. So that's all I got. Bill, what do we got today?
So we've got several different, very interesting pieces. I had a very great opportunity to speak this week with Peter Ticktin, who is the lead attorney looking after the case to defend Tina Peters and ultimately get her freed from what almost everybody is now recognizing as wrongful imprisonment. And we had a great chance to talk a bit about her case. But perhaps more importantly, we talked about some areas that I believe are more important in the grand scheme of things based on Mr. Ticktin's knowledge, background, and experience. And so we've got some excerpts that I put together to bring some of those messages, which I believe will resonate broadly all across Georgia with all the people that have been fighting this fight on election integrity now for 5 years. And so we wanted to air that today. We'll have the opportunity to hear from David Cross. There's been some amazing moves in metals. There's been some interesting moves in the markets. And coming up to the end of the year, I thought this was a great time to get David in to give us his views and thoughts as we close in on the end of 25 and the beginning of 26. And then I think you've got some things to cover as well, do you, Todd?
Yeah, we're going to, speaking on that theme of financials, there's a lot of movement in the media markets and what's behind that narrative and what's behind those agendas. We're going to talk with Tom Teague, another resident trading professional who follows the markets daily as an active participant. And so he will be on and we'll talk about that.
Okay. Do we want to take a break for another sponsor, or should we press on?
Sure. We can do a quick break. The Wellness Company is somebody you should know about, and I'm just going to play a quick ad from them, and then we'll get rolling.
Great.
Well, in the case of hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, these are two medications that have been FDA approved for use in humans for decades. They are very, very inexpensive. Interestingly, available over the counter in almost every other country other than the US and Canada. You can just walk into a pharmacy and buy them like we buy Tylenol in much of the world because they're that safe. And we've known for decades that ivermectin has very strong antiviral properties. It has anti-inflammatory properties, and both ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine are what we call zinc ionophores. They help to move zinc from the bloodstream into the cell, which is where it needs to be in order to fight off a virus. So lots of application for these, and we have every reason to believe that those drugs also will likely have some efficacy against H5N1 or a number of other respiratory viruses that we may meet down the road.
So that's twc.health/CDM, promo code CDM, a lot of specials on there. Get on the website, check out the medical kits, check out the supplements, the memberships, the weight loss, the parasite cleanse. All of it is there. So I would recommend starting your new year off healthy and check out what the Wellness Company has to offer. Back to you, Bill.
Okay, great. So before we show these excerpts, I will tell you that these are parts of an interview which is longer than 30 minutes, but has an amazing amount of depth for folks that have been concerned and working on election integrity for these past 5 years. You'll find it. We already aired it in its entirety on our Rumble channels, on X, and so forth. You'll find it there if you wish to go back and look at the further detail. We're going to pick out 4 specific places that I think are important and maybe in some ways surprising for folks in Georgia, but it's stuff that I believe we need to know, we need to recognize, and we need to be prepared to deal with as we go forward. So we'll go ahead and play this.
Election that was stolen by machines was in 2004, August of 2004, when Hugo Chavez was facing a recall election in Venezuela. And that's when the Smartmatic machines were used to rig the vote so that he ended up with 58% of the vote when he really should have lost by a large margin. And so, and ultimately it was just a couple of years later that they started the exporting business. And we look at Venezuela, I'm not sure exactly where we are in terms of whether we're going to go in there or not go in there, you know, I haven't lived in the future yet, so I can't tell you yet. But I wouldn't be surprised if part of the reason that we're about to do such a thing is because, not just because of the drugs. The drugs are reason enough, but it's not just the drugs. It's the exporting of fixed elections to 72 countries, including the United States. This is what they do. They're very, very good at it, and it's all around the world at this point.
That scale that you just mentioned, 72 countries having been impacted by what we're now learning here in the U.S. is difficult for many to grasp. I mean, that's a substantial portion of the countries around the world, and yet, you know, for years, as you said, we've been told, oh no, everything was fine here. This is all the big lie or the big, you know, the big fake, and it is challenging for people to grasp, and yet they do, thankfully, finally seem to be getting it. You've probably seen what's happened in Georgia in the last few weeks, and of course now this with Tina Peters, that on an individual basis bears just bizarre characteristics of, you know, those in power utilizing that power to squash truth, to squash information that should be available. So I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you, in the last 48 hours, your team submitted an urgent request for the appellate court to consider whether indeed, as I understand it, whether they indeed have jurisdiction to rule on the current appeal. So perhaps it makes sense. Let's pivot a little bit and talk about what this was about, what you hope to achieve with this latest set of filings.
Well, what is? Thank God we have President Trump. He is a godsend to our country, and thank God he you know, as well, that he didn't lose his life during the campaign. And yes, I just hope that he stays safe now. But thank God that we've got him, because he knows what's going on. He understands exactly what's going on. He does not fool himself into thinking everything's going to be all right. He knows that unless he makes it so that everything's all right, it's not going to be all right. And so he issued a pardon, and that's something he has the power to do. And the Constitution basically provides that the president does have the power to pardon for offenses against the United States.
Okay, it looks like some...
And it was with my argument in mind that the president granted the pardon. But and you might have heard the argument that I raised in the beginning, which is the fact that we thought of the United States, those two words, the label of our country, the political entity, the United States of America. We look at the United States as that. But before the end of the Civil War, we were far more. At the time of the Civil War, there were 36 states in the United States. And a state is a nation. We could have been called the United Nations of America, or we could have been called the United Countries of America, or the United States of America. They all meant the same thing. And so if you think of us as though the Constitution said that the president, it says that the president can grant a pardon for offenses against, let's say, the United Countries. That's how they would have been seeing it, a bunch of countries that are united. And so very often these things were meant to be understood in that light. But in fact, there's other considerations that even make it more meaningful as to why it would apply to these particular offenses. And it's that you can't have, I mean, yes, we do have two different jurisdictions. A person could be prosecuted for a crime on the state level and also prosecuted for the crime on the federal level. There's two different sovereigns.
Mm-hmm.
When you have two different sovereigns, you each one of them have the right to bring on those something regarding their laws. So if you have a federal law and you also have a state law, those are two different kinds of charges. They're from two different places. So it may sound like double jeopardy is in play, that people can have double jeopardy, and yes, they can. So, you know, we saw that with Rodney King, for instance, where at first Rodney King was prosecuted by the state of California, and that the jury decided that the police officers that beat Rodney King, that was on videotape, they had it, anybody could see it, that the police officers were not guilty. So the federal government then came in and said, well, you know, we're going to try for this as well under our laws, and it was not double jeopardy. They were allowed to do it. However, here, the federal government, the way the federal law is written is very different than almost any other laws. Where the government basically, the federal law says that in the event that someone violates the election laws of a state, that's also a federal crime. So they're not making a new law. They're just allowing themselves to prosecute on the basis of the law that already exists. It's the same law.
Mm-hmm.
And so so there's other distinctions that are involved here, especially when you're in an area where it is an area that's occupied by the federal government, and the supremacy clause of the Constitution applies. Because if states are allowed to just mirror the laws of the federal government, for instance, about anything, then they would be in a position to strip the president of the right to pardon anybody if it was so that that a pardon power didn't apply also to the states. So at least in certain circumstances, it needs to apply to the states. And in history, it looks like it has. So, for instance, whether it's the Whiskey Rebellion, where George Washington pardoned people who committed not only federal offenses, but also state offenses, and you know, the states respected that and didn't go after anybody for trespassing or for assaults or batteries or even arson. Okay, these are all state offenses, and those pardons were effective in terms of those state offenses as well. Unfortunately, we don't have much of a record for the pardons that preceded the 1980s, because there were fires. The first fire that destroyed all the pardons was in the War of 1812. In 1813, they burned down the White House, and there went the pardons and a lot of the paperwork. So and then in the 1980s, or 1979, there was another huge fire in Washington that also wiped out all these records, because they didn't have computers, they didn't have copy machines. You know, those papers were original and singular, so when they were destroyed, the records were destroyed. But I think we have to look back and see, what did the framers actually mean when they said that the president has the right to pardon for offenses against the United States.
Yeah. So one of the, hang on a second. There we go. So one of the things that I'd like to make sure folks heard was there is precedent that comes from the past that allows the president to pardon crimes that are committed not just at the federal level, but potentially at the state level as well. So that's piece one. Piece two, we're going to get into this next section, and we're going to hear why Tina is central to this discussion. Yet the bigger picture is about what she has done, her actions have done to set up the country to know what happened in these elections. Unlike others who've been intimidated and backed off, Tina has held her ground, and we're going to hear about that in this next section. So let's listen. One of the things that people have noted is that it's almost intuitive to understand these were, at least in part, federal elections. Now, yes, there were people on the ballot that would have been local and state and so forth, but many of the positions that were being voted on were federal. And so by literally by definition, I believe one of the things quoted in your documents is 52 U.S. 20701, which talks about preservation of records and retention.
Yeah.
And it specifically notes the officer of elections. So that would be, in this case,
Tina Peters.
Tina Peters in Mesa County. And
Yes.
so a great example of, yes, it's being implemented at a state level, but in fact, she's acting, and again, I'll use my own layman's understanding. She's acting as a representative of the laws put down by the federal government. Is that a reasonable?
Yeah. It's a situation, damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah.
Okay. Because here, if she followed the desires, not the laws of the state, and allowed her computer to be wiped out, then she's guilty of a crime under the federal laws. And if she obeyed the laws of the federal government, then the people in the state fished around to find ways of charging her with criminal offenses that she didn't actually commit. So, so here we were in a very difficult position. I mean, think about it. The president of the United States gave my client a pardon. Okay, I say my client, but believe me, we are a team that worked together with Patrick McSweeney, Bob Sinclair, John Case, and Stephanie Lampert, and myself. Anyway, we were issued a pardon for Tina Peters. So we want to go ahead and deal with that pardon, but at the same time, we really want to go ahead with the appeal because the judge didn't let her put on her defense that she had to do what she was doing because otherwise she'd be violating federal law. And that was the only way that she could do it. She needed to image the hard drive of the Dominion machines, which she did before. They then put on something they called a trusted build.
Mm-hmm.
And a trusted build is actually a term of art. Okay, if you're putting on a trusted build for a program onto a computer, what it means is it can be trusted not to wipe out the data. Okay, it just upgrades your program. Like when you get a new program on your iPhone and you or on your computer and you upgrade the program, it doesn't wipe out all your data. It only upgrades the program. That's a trusted build. So they called it a trusted build, but it wasn't. It should have been called, a trusted wipe, because that's what it did. It wiped the drive clean, and then it reinstalled the program on top of it. So when you do that, you can never get the original data back. It's gone forever. So unlike, what you see on forensic files or someplace where experts are able to get deleted materials, not once that's overwritten. Once it's overwritten, it's gone forever. So that's what they did. This is what Jenna Griswold, the Secretary of State, literally had done in 62 of the 64 counties. All the counties that had Dominion machines, she wiped out. She committed federal crimes. She is a criminal. Tina Peters is not a criminal.
Okay. As we get into this next session, we're going to take a break first, but when we come back, we're going to get into then the implications. I wanted, before we do that, I'm going to review what you've heard so far, and I want you to listen very carefully to what Mr. Ticktin shares about the actions of the players that are keeping Tina Peters behind bars. So, Todd, why don't we take a quick break and we'll come right back.
All right, here we go.
I'm David Cross, and you may know me from my election integrity work, but I also own U.S. Asset Management, an investment advisory practice. I've been an advisor for nearly 30 years, and one of the questions I get asked most frequently is, do I have enough money relative to other people my age? And while that's an interesting question, it's also the wrong question. The right question is do you have enough money to sustain your lifestyle for the rest of your life? This is a question you should know the answer to. This is what we do. Check us out at us-am.com and look for our big proud American Eagle logo.
I'm a naturopathic doctor. We are in the world of medicine very acquainted with many modalities, but probably the one most familiar with everybody would be two things: homeopathy and herbals or herbs, maybe some nutrients too, vitamins, minerals, that kind of thing. Now, we do know a lot about the drugs because we have to find out what drug you're taking affects you and what nutrient it depletes you of, because most every drug pharmacy product will deplete something. So we have been trained and we have a database that we can check into that says this is going to take your B12 away. The pharmaceutical company cannot patent organic substances made by the body. You're not born short of Advil. You're not born short of Ritalin.
Yeah.
You can be born short of insulin, right?
Mm-hmm.
The answers to staying healthy and keeping away from even SARS or any of those things getting into you is staying healthy.
Mm-hmm.
You and I get sick because our terrain gets out of balance. Well, that's the same thing in the soil. You and I are made from this thing called dirt. And when we get out of balance, we have the same thing happen. Weeds start to grow in our body. Right? And that's what we want in our body. We want nutrients that we don't understand how to get well enough yet because our suppliers are lacking knowledge on nutrient density foods.
So this is what drove you to develop
Well,
this, was your knowledge of this, right?
Right?
Mm-hmm.
You know that.
So understand the concept there that if you don't have your soil in your body balanced with the right nutrition at the cellular level, weeds start to grow in your body. I mean, it makes sense once you think about it. Nucleo Boost, check out the subscription, is cheaper, and you can get it at cdmnutrition.com. Back to you, Bill.
All right. Here we go. We're going to jump into the next section. And again, think about what you've already heard and now think of it in the context of what Mr. Ticktin will now share.
And she and also she couldn't indicate that you're allowed to. There was nothing wrong with it. First of all, this fella was not just an expert. He was an expert that was certified by the Department of Homeland Security to do exactly what he did. So with or without the clerk, he was authorized to do it. Secondly, all of a sudden there's a procedure where the Secretary of State tells you that you're not allowed to do things, you're not allowed to do it. She's not even in the equation, but she wasn't allowed to use these defenses, and the supremacy clause is also there. So when you're in a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, let's say, in order to follow federal law, you have to break state law.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? You're allowed to. Any state law you need to break in order to make sure that, it doesn't mean, while you're at it, you can go rob a bank, but any state law that you need to break in order to obey a federal law is a complete defense. She wasn't allowed to use that defense.
That's right. As I recall, there were over 40 requests or motions that were denied for, for various aspects of evidence that could have helped her. Yes.
Yeah, 41. I think 41 motions were brought on this very issue. Yeah.
Wow.
And we had a judge who really it was, let's just say there is a cabal, and this is part of what I started off explaining about people's reluctance to understand what is actually going on in the world. And it's so important to understand this at this point because we're going to have midterms. And somewhere before the midterms, President Trump is going to announce that there are new rules for these elections. And he's going to probably indicate that it's an election emergency. I don't know for sure what President Trump's going to do or say, but I can tell you from my own personal knowledge, there is an election emergency. The voter rolls throughout the country are corrupted. There are imaginary people that are put into all of these. So, like for instance, in your state or in your county, there could be 2 Bill Quinns, or maybe there's 4, maybe there's even 8. Okay, we don't know how many Bill Quinns there are, but there's only one real Bill Quinn. The other one or the others will have exactly the same driver's license number as you have. They will have your social security number. They will have your home address. They will have your phone number. They will have your date of birth, although sometimes the date of birth is varied. And they will have, for sure, the one thing that's consistent with all of these is a different voter identification number. That's why not only can you vote, but your modified duplicate can also vote. Okay, but they can't actually go to the polls and vote because they're imaginary. They don't actually exist. But the computers can pull them up out of the archives, vote them, and put them back into the archives. And there are about 10 million or more of these throughout the country. 2 million in New York alone, probably about 1 million in Florida. And we don't know for each state how many there are, but we know that this is rampant throughout the United States. The voter rolls are corrupted and the machines are corrupted. There cannot be a fair election with those, and more information is now coming out that is making this very clear. So, this is something that no longer can we afford to have this as something that we can choose to not believe. We need to look at the facts and see that this really did happen. And for 4 years, our nation was stolen, and it was stolen by foreign actors, especially Venezuela, working, basically at the behest of China. And I know that Iran was in this loop as well. But you may wonder then, if that's true, how did Donald Trump get to win in 2024? And that's because there was certain actions that were taken where the computers that controlled the outcome, which were located in Belgrade, Serbia, were basically disabled. The hard drives were melted down. That was 3 days before the election in 2024. And if it hadn't been for that, for sure, we'd have Kamala Harris would have won the election through the difference of the machines. As it is, she had the benefit of the ballot dumps and all of that, and that was too big to rig. But the machines are too big. There's no way, no matter what the results would be from real votes for Donald Trump, it would have been insurmountable because the machines can make up whatever numbers that they need to make up.
Yeah. We heard something that she alluded to in a note over Christmas, that even the other inmates, albeit some were probably not very supportive of her initially, but I believe I heard when she was released from solitary and they brought her through the population back to her other, I guess her new cell, many people were cheering for her or calling out to her in support, which suggests to me that people even in the prison are getting this to some extent. They're realizing the price that's being paid to try to get the truth out.
Yeah. And when you did mention a little earlier, you said, well, the main topic is Tina Peters, but the main topic is Tina Peters and the election, because really this is why she's an American hero. it's not because, she's just a person who was wrongfully incarcerated. It's because she's wrongfully incarcerated for doing what was necessary to save our country. And it's those clerks that are able to write it. I mean, out of 62 clerks, other ones had also imaged their computers. But when push came to shove, when people like Jenna Griswold and Weiser, they demanded that they get the copies that they made or images they made get turned over. Everyone else basically gave them up. But here's Tina Peters stuck to her guns, and she was not going to do what was wrong for America. And, so you've got to look at what she did, not just in light of the fact that she did what she did, but she did it in a dangerous time. She did it in a place where there were plenty of people, the whole Dominion machine apparatus, together with all the people that are on the hook with them, all needed to cover up the election. I mean, let me ask you this, and this is a keen, important question, because this is all about Tina Peters. And the question is, why is the person who was securing the evidence and preserving the evidence, meaning keeping a way of knowing what the truth is, why is she behind bars, and the people who erase the evidence, why are they the ones that are out putting her behind bars? I mean, look at the people who are now refusing to release her. You got Governor Poulos. He's refusing to release her. Why? Why? Because who was he? How did he get in his office? He didn't just walk in. He got elected. He got elected in a system that is rigged. We've got Weiser, the Attorney General. Why is he so strongly against letting the 70-year-old woman out of prison when there's so many things wrong with it? Why is he so strong against it? He's in office. How did he get in office? Through a rigged election. And then we have the Secretary of State, another one. So we got criminals in power. We got criminal, and that's why we call Colorado a captured state. Because the people aren't, there are a lot of people that believe a lot of things in Colorado. And there's a lot of people who believe that, there's something wrong with Tina Peters because of all that they're being fed, because that all emanates from the top. You don't ever have people that take over a government improperly or illegally, the way this was done, that are kind to their people that they've taken over from. It usually ends up being brutal. And one thing that they really insist on is that nobody reveal the truth.
Great interview, Bill.
Interesting. Well, and that's just portion of it. So folks, again, can look at that in its entirety on X. But I want to just remind folks of a few things that were said. What is it when someone who did not commit a crime, who worked to protect the data that would show what actually happened in the election, they are behind bars, and there is clear evidence that the folks that put them there and are keeping them there were the ones to actually erase data that would show the truth.
Yes.
Now, we heard that this is not US only. This is something that's extended across potentially 72 countries. So what makes us think that this did not extend across many, many states, counties, cities, and others that are using these machines? Think about the implications for that, and think about what we've seen in these past 5 years right here in Georgia.
Agreed. We're going to keep going down the path of truth. So thank you for that interview.
Great. All right. If we're ready, next up, we have David Cross, who's been very patient waiting on us.
Let's bring him in.
Let's bring him. Mr. Cross, thank you so much for being patient. That video ran a little bit longer than our plan, but thank you for making time, sir.
Listen, it's totally fine. I was captivated by what Peter was talking about. It's really great to see an attorney that's totally embraces the fact that we're living in a rigged system. So I'm grateful that he's working on our case.
I very much agree, and I mentioned that to him at the beginning. My first question was, what is it that got you involved, when so many attorneys, unfortunately, seem to be unwilling to become involved for one reason or another. So we are in an interesting financial time, and we thought this was a great opportunity to get you in, get your current views. I know you sent in some slides that you'd like to use as well. So you tell me how you'd like to go through the next part of the conversation.
Let's pull those up and take a peek at them real quick. There's not too many here, but what I want to show people is just kind of like what is the current tenor of the market. Oh, and before I forget, I do have to say this. You know, my compliance person will get really upset if I don't. Okay, we are going to be discussing financial markets and investments. I'll not be making any specific recommendations to you as an individual. My comments are provided as courtesy and for educational purposes only. Please consult your investment professional, legal, or advisor, or for specific information pertaining to your situation. Okay, got that out of the way. We live in a litigious world, so but I'm actually out having, just had a late lunch with my wife, Sean. We just had pizza at Itala Pizza in Johns Creek. They make their pizza with Italian flour, which I love. But we're sitting in the car outside the restaurant, so let's hit these slides. So hit the first one, please. All right, so this is the S&P 500. What you're looking at is a chart that shows that the S&P 500, it's hitting new highs right now. It is in a confirmed uptrend. There's no question about what's going on right now. That's not to say that it can't pull back and fluctuate, but right now the broad tenor of the market is for prices to be moving higher. So that's the S&P. The next slide is the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ is actually not behaving quite as well. What you'll see in this chart is that the lows of about a month or so ago were lower than the previous lows, and the highs are getting lower. This is just this is technical speak for the NASDAQ doesn't look as strong as the S&P 500. And then the next chart is stocks outside the United States, which for the first time in 15 years are doing better than U.S. stocks. So it's called the EFA index. It's Europe, Far East, Australia. It's basically everything outside the United States, and it's doing spectacularly well. So asset prices are moving up, and I think I started this conversation with you guys like a year or two ago, and I told you that there was the possibility that while people tend to think that things can crash down, when governments are printing money, you can also have a crash up, which is what we're seeing right now. I think the next chart is going to show us what silver looks like. Oh no, this is all right. It's a fear and greed index. So, I hate CNN, right? I'll put that out there, but they've got a great tool for helping us understand kind of like what's going on. And right now, we're kind of just going into the greed phase right now. And John Templeton said it best. He said that that bull markets are born on pessimism, grow on skepticism, mature on optimism, and then peak out on euphoria. And I hate to say it, we're nowhere near euphoria, so things could move higher.
Let me ask you real quick before you move on. The crypto segment has not been like that. In fact, I think the needle is over in extreme fear. Any thoughts as to why that is?
So crypto is a risk asset that is very closely tied to what's going on in artificial intelligence, and those stocks right now are having a difficult time. So maybe we're getting a correction that's happening there, but people that tend to own crypto also own a lot of AI stocks like Nvidia and other things, and if you start to see those companies not doing so well, you might have people that have to go sell crypto so they can fortify their positions in the other stocks, or vice versa.
Interesting. Great insight. Thank you.
All right, next slide is going to show silver. All right, so silver closed on Friday. The chart that I've got says 77.19. If you go to the next slide, it shows, APMEX is showing silver at $81.59. So in about around 6:10 p.m. tonight, we're going to be able to see what silver is doing in the overnight market. And my understanding is that it's being swept up and hoarded right now tremendously. And one of the things we have not seen in the silver market yet is something called a limit up stop, which means the whatever it is you're trading, could be wheat, could be corn. In this case, it could be silver. Silver could go limit up, and then they halt it for trading, because that just tells you that there's a tremendous imbalance. We haven't seen that in a very, very long time. And there's a lot of people out there saying, oh my gosh, the price of silver is going parabolic. It looks a lot like 1981. People like to look back at charts and things like that to see what things look like in the past. In 1981, you had three guys, the Hunt brothers, who inherited a bunch of money from their dad. They tried to corner the silver market. They were buying silver, and then they were using that silver as collateral for margin loans to go borrow money to buy more silver. And at one point, the Commodities Futures Trading Commission came out and said, we're not going to allow that anymore. And so they had to sell silver in order to cover their margin, and there weren't a lot of buyers. Right now, we have the opposite of that. We don't have a concentration of a few buyers that are buying this and hoarding it to try and push the price up. You have millions of people out there, like me, for instance, that buy physical silver, store it, and and for some people it's going into storage heaven, where it may never be sold again, because people are looking at it as a permanent financial asset to replace the fiat money that we've got. And for anybody who doesn't know, fiat money just means paper money. We live in a paper money kind of world right now. All right, next slide is going to show you what's going on with gold. So gold's hitting an all-time high right now. Platinum is too. These things are happening, in part because speculators are pushing prices higher, but prices are also going up because we have structural deficits between the amount of metals that are being demanded and the amount of metals that are being produced, out of the ground. And so we have a structural deficit that has been going on for several years. What's really crazy is, I think, if somebody wanted to buy all of the silver miners that trade publicly, I think you would spend somewhere around maybe $40 billion. And I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but if I was somebody who was making the new version of batteries right now that require a kilo of silver in them, I think I would want to own a mine at some point. So,
Elon Musk has been talking about this, and there's a lot coming out on the Chinese influence on the market, where they're hoarding and essentially bidding up the market by reducing supply. So that's a whole national security flavor to this as well.
Well, don't forget too that Trump classified silver as a strategic mineral. First time in history it's ever happened. So that, I think, has got some people on edge too, because at some point it means that our United States government is going to want to have a stake in silver as well too. Hopefully it doesn't happen like in 1933, where President Roosevelt said you can't own gold, it's illegal, and they confiscated it. And the same kind of thing was going on with the Silver Act around the same time. So hopefully that doesn't happen, but it's amazing what's happened in the price of metals recently.
I'll take things that were really effed up about the United States 100 years ago, Alex.
All right, what's our next slide, Bill? I can't remember everything. What do we got? All right, so
10-year treasuries.
Yeah, a lot of times we're talking about interest rates. Interest rates are going down, and the new Fed governor, I think his name is Kevin Hastert. I think he is saying that he wants to push interest rates down. He's totally on board with what President Trump is saying. So we probably could see those things coming down. But I will tell you this, we got a really crazy number that came out of GDP that indicated that the GDP of the United States economy grew over 8% in the most recent quarter. So there's a bunch of folks out there going, oh, no, it's because of the government shutdown and you can't trust the numbers. we'll find out what the truth of those numbers is like in the next several weeks. But things are looking pretty good there.
So there's an
Wow.
interesting thing that's happening, and I don't think people fully understand. As a former bond guy, I kind of get it, but maybe you could add some insight. And Teague is going to talk about this in a minute, I think, on another clip. But so our debt is on some bonds that have in some cases are down below 50% in value of the financial note itself. So Besant is going in and yes, printing the money to buy those bonds, but he's reducing the federal debt by doing that. So,
Right.
I mean, the overall face value of the debt is coming down because he's buying those bonds at 50 cents and yes, printing the money to buy them, but it's reducing the sovereign debt of the U.S. Your thoughts?
Listen, that's a very smart thing to do. I mean, and listen, I know people that during the great financial crisis, people in the real estate business, they did the same thing. They went to their banks and said, "Hey, what's my loan, trading for?" Between the different banks, I want to buy it back, and they did that. I think that's a smart thing, for Besant to be doing with our money right now. And the only regret I've got is like sometime like in the last, in 2020, when interest rates literally went to zero. We could have issued 100-year bonds at 2%. And right now you could be buying those things back, from maybe 40 cents on the dollar, 30 or 40 cents on the dollar, and retiring that debt.
Yes.
If this is going on, then this means actually that is strengthening our currency. Let's see what's going to happen there, because right now the US dollar is getting destroyed against other currencies like the Japanese yen.
Interesting. Okay.
Is there another
slide?
There we go.
Here,
Tariff revenue. There you go.
This has been awesome. So the tariff revenue is up quite a bit. All the naysayers out there are saying, "Oh my gosh, it's a tax on the American people," and to some extent it is. But you know what? At least you and I can control how much money that we're paying, because we control how much money that we're spending. And tariffs are not levied on essential items like food and things like that. So I think we're almost done with the slides. What else we got here? All right, so that was the whole reason why I brought up the tariff thing is because Trump is talking about maybe using tariffs in order to eliminate the income tax. I would love to see that. In the income tax, I personally don't believe the income tax ever really fully passed in all the different states out there. Call me a conspiracy theorist; it won't be the first time. But it's something that I'm definitely would like to see. Us get rid of the income tax. Oh, and here's the last thing. We talked an awful lot about metals. I've had a lot of people ask me about things like that right now, saying, is now the right time to be buying metals and gold and silver and whatnot. I literally got off the telephone with a client a little while ago that was asking, should she put more into it? I can't give advice on this show, and the only thing I would tell you is that if you're interested in hearing more, reach out to us at us-am.com. If your advisor has steered you away from metals, you really need to rethink your relationship with that advisor, because it means that they do not fundamentally understand the concept of fiat money and what it means. And I've been talking about this for like the last couple of years, talking about like this crash that you can have that goes up, and that's exactly what we've seen happen in the last couple of years.
And then the contact information is right there on the screen, and
Yep.
Along with the website. So that's great, David.
Reach out to us, let us know if we can help you.
That's great. Any last thoughts as we close in on? We're at the 28th. We are hours away, essentially, from the end of the year. Any other thoughts for folks as they end this year and get ready to begin 26?
You know what? We are in the fortunate position of not having a lot of losses to harvest for people right now. It's been a really good year for us and for our clients, and I just hope that we have the same kind of prosperity for folks that are out there. I hope that folks are really taking advantage of the knowledge that I've tried to impart on y'all's show, like in the last couple of years, and hopefully it's benefiting people.
Hopefully.
I think it is, but we've had good feedback from people dealing with you, so thank you for that. Really love taking care of our viewers, so thank you.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you very much.
So God bless and a happy new year to you and yours, David. Thank you for being with us.
You too. Thank you.
All right, Bill. What do you got? Anything else, or we want to move to?
No,
the next?
it's over to you, sir.
I'm going to run a quick break on precious metals for CDM with Advisor Metals, and then we'll roll direct to Tom Teague talking about some of these issues. Wrong one. Sorry about that. Let me find the right
But
one.
I like the music.
Yeah, why is that not there? Huh. It looks, oh, there it is. If you haven't noticed, gold has reached a new high, all-time highs actually, and keeps going up every day. Why is that? It's because precious metals are a long-time historical store of value. And if you own a portfolio and you have assets in the fiat currencies, i.e. stocks, bonds, cash, or whatever, you're vulnerable to hyperinflation, which is coming as our debt explodes another trillion every 90 days. It's really scary. So how do you protect yourself? Go to Advisor Metals. If you look on any of our cdm.press sites, about halfway down, there's an ad for Advisor Metals. Click on it, fill out the form for your contact info, and Ira Bishotsky will contact you and talk to you. It's an easy conversation. There's no sales pitch. He's completely verified by us. He has a regulatory background we've checked into. We've checked with his bankers. We've checked with his IRA custodians for metals, and we can highly recommend Advisor Metals and IRA. So go to Advisor Metals. If you call them directly, tell them we sent you at CDM, and he'll definitely take care of you. But protect your portfolio because you really need to. It's coming. Thank you. All right, so Tom Teague is, David is our resident financial advisor. Tom is our resident financial market participant, and he's a long career on the street. I think he ended at Credit Suisse, and but he's still active in the markets in a big way. And I want to play an interview I did with him on really what's happening in the media and what you need to know about narrative control and also some of the market fundamentals right now. So here we go. Tom Teague. Now we're going to talk economics and what's going on with our media. Tom, thanks for joining me, my friend.
How are you?
Oh, dude, I'm busy.
Yeah.
What about you? You look good, man. You're all dressed up. You got somewhere to
go? I decided to be clean today.
You wanted to talk about the media. Tell us what's going on.
So, obviously there's a deal out there. Warner Brothers has two bidders. Netflix is one of them, and Paramount, which is Ellison's son, and Ellison behind it. What they're bidding on two different things. Warner Brothers has obviously their film studios, HBO Max, and that's what Netflix is trying to acquire. And Paramount is trying to acquire the whole panoply, which includes CNN, TMT, Cartoon Network, all this stuff. And so there's a difference in the bids. The bid coming from Paramount, which is the Ellison side, is like $108 billion of cash that's financed through debt and equity. And then the Netflix side obviously will leave those, the CNN, the TMT, all that stuff will be spun off to shareholders, and it'll be a cash and stock deal just for the studios, the HBO, etc. But I think behind it, I'm just watching this, it's pretty interesting because there's been a huge negative smear campaign on Oracle. Oracle's too levered. It's CDS had already, this deal was announced like the 5th of December. Oracle CDS, after this deal was announced, have moved from like 117 basis points to 160. They've come back in a little bit today. We can
for our non-finance types, that's credit default swaps. It's like
credit default
insurance. How expensive is the insurance? Is what they're saying.
Right, correct.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a spread that where it would trade in a normal market. Basically, in my opinion, what's happening is there's a huge battle for the heart and soul of media in this country, and it started, I think, with Elon Musk and Twitter. And that's been a huge changer in terms of the narrative and being able to control the narrative. And what people don't realize, I think, and I've listened to a lot of smart people talk about this. People look at not that many people really watch CNN, but everything that CNN says ends up going in the news cycle and being
it's fed.
All the talking heads in the media, no matter how stupid it is. I mean, Laura Ingram's show every night is basically, can you believe that this guy on CNN said this? And they all do that. So it's a relevant piece to the narrative that gets conveyed. And, this week we had obviously it was a tragic way to end one's life. What happened to Rob Reiner, it was awful. But in the aftermath of that, you start seeing that like this guy was working with pretty much everyone in the CIA to undermine Trump that he possibly could have. Right.
Yes.
So, that there's definitely a CIA influence in our media, whether it's supposed to be there or not supposed to be there. It's definitely there.
It's definitely there.
Ellison is definitely more of a conservative person. Like it or leave it, I think Barry Weiss is better than what we had before at CBS. And probably, at least you get more towards the balance side, even if you're not really there. And there's something that she's not very balanced on. But I think that these assets that are in play are very important. And it's also important, if you can imagine, what if CNN became a more balanced network, right?
Well, somebody's going to buy them, right? Who's going to buy them?
Well, it would be Paramount. If Paramount wins, they would control, right? And so
let me ask you real quick. Ellison, obviously involved in the TikTok deal. I mean, he funded most of it, or a large chunk of it. And there's a lot of criticism of him he's trying to control that platform. Does the negative, the campaign against him have anything to do with that, do you think?
Well, I think there's certainly people that believe he's becoming too powerful. I would say that a lot of the stuff that's happening with Oracle is probably not very balanced, and it's more of a smear to try and sort of hurt everything that he has, because that's, his baby. And there's just been an enormous amount of negative criticism of Oracle, most of which is unfounded. I mean, they are a fairly levered company, but it's their debt distribution is such that it's not like they're going to go bankrupt anytime soon or go, lose their investment grade status on their debt. But I think a lot of this stuff is just the classic smear of let's hurt this guy so that we keep him away from these assets. And I think generally there's a transformation in mainstream media away from this like completely like progressive left cuckoo Hollywood stuff, which Hollywood became the owner of a lot of these media assets. And I think it's probably a net positive thing. The board of Warner Brothers rejected the offer this week of Paramount, but I think, they're trying to get Ellison to pledge more and to not just use his trust to personally sign for it. But I think it's a net positive thing for media if he does acquire these assets, because the way they've been run over the last few years is they're just a complete propaganda arm of the left, and they're not balanced at all.
Yeah, they're just, everybody knows it now. So
yeah, correct. So it's just a real fight. And I don't know how it turns out, but I know that Warner Brothers is trading higher right now than the bid from Netflix. It's trading around $28. And I would say definitely this is good. This is a saga that's going to continue, so that if Warner Brothers does get hit, it's probably something interesting to look at, as long as, it's still in play.
Right. So I'm not going to play all of that, Bill, but you can find that on the Skiff and all our Rumble and CDM YouTube channel. And Teague, by the way, is going to be doing a new show with us in the new year. We're building CDM business on the Manhattan.press, and he will be doing, I think, a weekly markets show. So I don't know the name yet or any of the details, but we're working on that. And by the way, Bill, Mr. Ticktin gave me an idea for a new T-shirt. He said there's only one Bill Quinn. I think that's our new T-shirt.
Well, there some people have said, well, gosh, there's at least two of you in there. So
anyway, just an idea. Back to you. That's all I got today.
All right. Sure enough. Before we, and as we close, I wanted to play a video that Trump has posted, Dan Scavino has posted, and others have posted periodically. It talks about you matter when you are in the arena, and it's called The Man in the Arena. I want to play that, and then we're going to go straight to credits and end the show. So once again, we appreciate you being here, and we will always attempt to represent some of the men in the arena. Here we go.
It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles,
Let's try that again.
or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again. Because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds? Who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat.